hello, and welcome back to Kathie's Coaching Podcast. Today is something super special, close to my heart. I am interviewing one of my fellow mastermind from Flow Base Prosperity Mastermind with Joseph Rodriguez. His name is Mark Pinto, and he's a coach on anxiety. And I have been working with him, and he has awesome stories. I mean, his stories are the best. And as a storyteller myself, I could tell you, you're in for a real treat today. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. All right. So here we are. I'm interviewing my mentor and my coach on anxiety. And I'm just going to say this right here, right now. Y'all know me. You know, I'm open. You know, I share myself and my story and my vulnerability. And the thing is getting coached on anxiety just makes me a better coach in general. Just all of my coaches, and I've worked with all of them inside our mastermind. And so I'm going to share a little bit of my journey that has gone on with my coach, Mark Pinto. And so welcome today, Mark. How you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm good. I feel good. It's a nice day. It's sunny outside. Honestly, I only used to enjoy the sunny days, but now I enjoy the rainy days, the cloudy days. I just enjoy nature a lot more now.
I know, right? And me too. And in fact, Mark and I had a coaching call the other day where it started raining on him and he just went with the flow. And I love that. And I want to I want to talk about how we find inspiration, even in the middle of anxiety, even in the middle of a lot of stress, because I don't care who you are experiencing anxiety in some way, shape, or form. And when you become aware of that, you get to find your own energy and you get to find a lot of power. And as Mark likes to say, you're not thinking in this little brain, and he holds up his little iPod case.
I have that. Yeah.
And then, there's the iPod case. So instead, let's think with our bigger brain. He uses a notebook, but honestly, I like to think of it as infinite intelligence, which is bigger than the notebook. But the visual is very helpful and really makes you see. So the very first thing I want to ask you, Mark, is how do you start when you're coaching on anxiety? Like, how do you find your questions? Because I just felt right at home with you when I talked to you, and it was like really a good journey that we went through together. So how do you find out where somebody is on their anxiety scale?
Well, the first thing I do is like I always say a little prayer in my mind when I'm talking to somebody, and I say, God, give me the message that you've been trying to give to them that they haven't received. Right. So that's something I do silently, when I'm talking, even if it's just a stranger in the street, because sometimes you're just talking with some stranger and you're having a conversation about nothing, but then all of a sudden it just turns into something and you realize that this person needs something. They're dealing with something. And then I say that silent prayer. And sometimes they're not even talking about anything, but I can feel that there's something they need. And I'll say that silent prayer again. So that's the first thing I do, is say that silent prayer. And then the next thing I do is I just ask them like what they've been going through, like explain it to me. Because when I can hear how you speak, I'll know where you're at, like if you're saying my anxiety and, which you're identifying with the anxiety and you're saying, this happened to me and it made me really anxious, then I know that you think that circumstances are creating your anxiety and it's not not the story about the circumstance, but you think it's the thing, And so as you speak naturally and tell me about what's going on, I can feel through your words, like exactly where you're at, and then I start to intuitively know where we need to go and where we need to get started. But, it's just like ourselves, when we get connected and we get guidance, God never gives you like the whole like steps from A to Z, you know? God gives you like the first step, you know, and then when you take that step, then you get to see the next step. And then so I do the same thing in my coaching, you know. So it's like, you know, I know where we are going, but we have to start where we're at, you know.
Ooh, I love that. And I like the reframe that Mark helped me identify, because when you stop calling it my anxiety, it shifts everything. And it's like the anxiety becomes your teacher. And so there's lessons always to be learned. And one thing I really love about my journey with Mark is he emphasized doing nothing, number one. Number two is also getting in nature to get your answers to anything. And so, especially on a call the other day, he told me about how he got an answer to a question he was thinking about. And I really liked how he framed it, where you don't go in demanding the answer. Give me the answer, give me the answer. So I want Mark to tell us about that and kind of give us an idea of what that situation looked like, because he's an awesome storyteller, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I've been working on getting back in shape like how I used to be. I'm 47. So in my 30s, in my early 30s, I was in amazing shape, six pack and everything. And I've been working to get back. And intuitively, I've been guided to track my macros. And as I'm tracking my macros, I'm just really enjoying it. And I'm hitting my macros every day. And I'm going to the gym and I'm doing everything and I'm losing weight. And then a couple days, I gained like zero point 0.2 pounds, zero point 0.3 pounds, and zero point 0.5 pounds. And so the second day that I saw I gained 0.3 pounds, I was upset. Like immediately, I can feel the aggravation and the discouragement, all that stuff. And I was going to go to the gym that morning, and it was like, why you even bother? And it's a waste of time and things like that. And then I immediately I realized that this is not me. This is discouragement talking. This is discouragement talking, because all emotions come with a story, right? And they come with words and they come with thoughts, and these are not you. These are just the energies trying to take you over, trying to hook you. And so when I realized that that was discouragement, I said, okay, let's put some space in between this. Let's like relax. And I was like, okay, what should I do now? Because discouragement is like, just stay home. And as I relaxed, I was like, you know what? I'm going to the gym. Even though I feel aggravated, even though I feel discouraged, I'm going to the gym. And I knew that also when I go to the gym, I go to the sauna first and I sit in there and I stretch. And the sauna is a place for me that helps me to get intuitive guidance because it brings me in the moment. Anything that brings you in the moment helps intuitive guidance to come to you in the present moment. And that's why I love nature, because nature is so present, right? And so nature just helps anybody to get in the present moment a lot easier. So while I was in the sauna, and I'm just sitting there relaxing and stretching and breathing, just being present, I get this intuitive message that says, hey, look up on YouTube, what should weighing yourself every day. So I look up, it has a very, very specific title, weighing yourself every day. So I put in weighing yourself every day and I looked that up. And about 3 videos down, I see a video from a guy and I was like, you know, I think this is the video. The first video was like, and then I was like, oh, this looks like might be one. So I click on that and this guy proceeds to say, hey, he's like, in my community, he has a weight loss community. In our community, anytime somebody new comes into the community, they start to lose weight and they feel good. And then inevitably they have a day that they gain weight and they get discouraged and like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like I've been hitting my macros, I've been working out and I still gain weight. And I was like, holy crap, this is exactly what I was thinking, right? Or what the discouragement was thinking, let's say it like that, right? That's what the discouragement was saying to me, right? And he said, but anybody that's been through this program, that's lost weight, that's been doing this for a while, all of our older members that's been here for a while knows that you are going to gain weight. It's just there will be fluctuations. It's just part of the journey. And so what you have to do is continue hitting your macros, continue going to the gym, continue being that fit person, and eventually you will like lose weight. And sometimes it'll spike up, but then you'll lose more and it'll spike up and then you'll lose more. And eventually you'll get to the weight you want, but you just have to like disregard those days when it goes up and just keep doing what you know is right. And I was like, wow, look at that. Just like that, I got the answer. And when I got that answer, I was like, now discouragement has lost so much power over me, because that was one of the things that used to discourage me a lot going on the scale. But now that I know the truth, and the way that the perfect video of the guy talking about everybody that's been through this knows this already, it's kind of like, okay, well, now I know it too. So that's no longer work. I know once I hit my macros, once I work out, once I'm in the calorie deficit every day, over time, I will lose weight, and I'm not worried about my results every single day. I'm more concerned with my results overall. And this is what I tell people with anxiety. It's the same thing. I always say, as you do the work, you're going to have more peace. Your peace is going to rise, but it's going to be upward trending. It's not going to be a straight line. It's going to be one day you feel lots of peace, the other day you may feel a little anxiety. Then you feel a lot more peace, and another you may feel tremendous anxiety. And if you listen to those days you have anxiety, you'll say to yourself, this is not working, and you'll give up. But the truth is, the days that you feel the most anxious when you do the work is the days that you kick anxiety in the butt the most, because you are continuing to be the person regardless of circumstances. And that's what creates the sharp upward trend. And a lot of,
Like a quantum leap,
yeah.
which I have had since working with Mark. I've had quantum leaps in my anxiety journey, and I just have to commend him. He's an awesome storyteller. So I love how he reframed that discouragement. It wasn't him. He didn't identify with it. It was his thoughts about it that he caught on. And he has an awesome story that I want him to share that talks about that. It's our thoughts about things. And I want him to share the story and how he helped me reframe something that was going on in my life with this simple story. You're going to be blown away when we talk about this. And actually, he's probably got more. And I can think of two right now, two stories I'd love for him to tell. And I'm going to make him tell both of them. So the first one I want you to tell is about the bug in your car.
Oh, the bug in the car. Oh, that was a good one. All right. So the bug in the car, that would just happen recently, right? That was just like a month or two ago, if that long. And so in Florida in the rainy season, like all the bugs, all the palmetto bugs, which are like big roaches, they come into your home, right? And so apparently one came into our car, right? And I'm driving my daughter to school, my 9-year-old daughter to school in the morning. And I'm driving, we're having a wonderful, beautiful day as normal. And then all of a sudden she's just like screaming and pointing. And I'm like, oh my God, what is there, like a terrorist attack going on? It was like so dramatic. Like I thought something like insane was happening. So I'm like, I'm staying calm. I feel my adrenaline spike, but I'm staying calm because I have to stay in control of the car. And I look around, and then I look up, and there's a huge roach, like palmetto bug, like right in front of my visor. And at the same time, I'm shocked. I'm also relieved, because I'm like, nothing's exploding. There's no kind of crazy things happen. So I'm like, all right, just calm down. Like, first of all, because that first wave of anxiety shot up. So I was like, all right, let's calm down. But you have to stay relaxed because you're driving your daughter and you can't like think. So let's calm down. And then when I realized the roach is like right there and it can like drop on me, I'm like, all right, it's okay if it drops on me. Like, I'm not going to die. It'll be a little gross, but I have to stay calm so that I drive this car properly and I don't get us injured, right? So it's crawling around and my daughter is freaking out. And now it's crawling back to her and it's going all the way back, and then it crawls back into the trunk, right? And so now she's crying. She's all like in a whole different state. And for me, once you start to like, because anxiety helped me to have this emotional intelligence. And once you start to meditate, you start separating yourself from your feelings and your thoughts. You start to realize that like, this is what I need to teach my kids, because this is going to help them to have so much of a better life if they learn to have this emotional intelligence, if they learn how to be in charge of themselves and not let emotions take them over. So for me, this is an opportunity. I'm like, she is terrified right now. She is crying. This is a great opportunity for me to help her. And so She's 9. I've been doing this since she can speak. Same thing with my son who's 16. So they kind of know what we're going to go through. So I'm like, okay, first of all, calm down. Let's calm down. Let's start breathing and relaxing. They know how to breathe and relax. So and she's crying. She's crying, there's tears on her, and she's tried to breathe as much as possible. So after a couple minutes of breathing and relaxing, and she calms down enough, then I start talking to her. A lot of times, parents, they're trying to talk to their kids when they're like angry or they're scared or something like that. And the same thing with ourselves. Like, you're not going to get anything to go into subconscious. You're not going to be able to reason until you calm down, right? And so once we get her to calm down, now I asked her, I said, okay, what did you think about what was going on, when you saw the roach? And she was like, well, I thought that it was gross and it might jump on me. And so I was like, okay, so now thinking those type of thoughts that this is gross and this is going to jump on you, how is that going to make you feel? And she said, oh, it's going to make me scared. I said, exactly. And so I was like, so what made you scared? Was it the bug or was it that the bug jumped on? Was it the bug actually being present or your story about the bug? And she's like, it's the story about the bug. I was like, exactly. So if we change the story about the bug, would your feelings change about the story? And she's like, yeah. And this is only, she's saying, yeah, and things like, because we've done this hundreds of times over the years, right? And so then I can't remember. Do you remember what I changed the story to? Because I told you when it was fresh.
I think you changed it to something like, I know the lesson you taught her was it's just my thoughts about the bug.
Yeah, it's just the bug.
It's not the bug itself. Like, it's just my thoughts about it. It's not jumping on me. It's not getting me. So I'm making this story up in my head.
Yes. Yes.
And
And I always help her to make a story. So I can't remember exactly the story, but maybe let's say the story was something like, what if you had a dream and you dreamed that when a big roach was in the car with you and your dad, and if that roach jumped on you, that you would get all the toys you've ever wanted, like that day, And then she started laughing. It was something like that. And she started laughing. And I was like, exactly, you see? Like, you'd still be a little bit like, but you'll be more excited, right? And she's like, yes, because you have a whole different story in your head. So I was telling you, like, it's always a story. And that's what that's what I do with my kids all the time. Every time they have something, we go through that entire process because I always want them to know that your body is only reacting to the story in your head. It's not reacting to circumstances. One person, it's raining, it's bad luck. Another person, it's raining and it's good luck because it's their farm needed it, So it's always your story and it's not the circumstances.
yeah, it's always the story, and they're always the story. And the thing is, it's identifying that you're actually telling a story because we fall unconscious and we don't even know we're telling a story. And for my transurfing audience, I want to point out that what he's talking about here is the pendulum in reality transurfing. And the pendulum only wants your energy. So dissatisfaction and lack of fulfillment are the pendulum's favorite dishes. And remember how he mentioned discouragement or I'm scared or I'm afraid? But let me go back to the very beginning of that. We've got to identify the story so we know what's making our body go like into this crazy thing. But when you identify the story, then you can break it down and go, okay, this is just a story. It's just my thoughts about the story. I can change it. And one of the greatest ways to stop a pendulum from swaying is to laugh and have a good time and feel good. And feel good, feeling good will help you come up with solutions to whatever you're going through. So the first thing before we tell the other story I'm going to talk about, I want you to teach us floating and what is it and why it helps and why knowing the story will help you get into floating easily.
Well, Dr. Claire Weeks, when I was going through like the worst anxieties, like it's terrible, it was like agoraphobia, I couldn't even leave the house. I remember there was a moment that I just was like, I can't live like this anymore, And at that moment when I was like, I can't live like this anymore, like I could hear it's like a voice, but it wasn't a voice. It was just like a knowing, and it was said. And this is before my spiritual journey, so I didn't know anything. I was a person that always followed my gut, but I wasn't like a spiritual person. And it said, if you can be this bad, think of how good you can be. There's always another end of the spectrum. So we're saying like you're the bottom of the barrel right now when it comes to peace. And there's a whole nother level, and you can go all the way to this side. And so as soon as that message came to me, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to find out to get there. I'm going to figure that out. And I just went and start buying books. Like I started researching books and learning about anxiety. And this one book, I can't remember how it happened, but it was synchronistic. Like it just came out of nowhere seemingly. And it was from Dr. Claire Weeks. And it was, it because you bought it.
Yeah, I'll have a link to it in the
Yeah.
show notes and description below because I know I have the book too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and the other book that you told me, the Dare book, he talks about Dr. Claire Weeks and floating in it as
Yeah.
well. I'll have links to both of those in the show notes and description below. So
Yeah. So yeah, because this was like 16 years ago. But when I read that book from Dr. Claire Weeks, it helped me to like heal myself. And one of the things she talks about in there is floating. And floating is basically allowing, like if you ever read another good book to kind of help you with floating would be the Sedona method. And Sedona method doesn't call it floating, but what they do is they welcome the feeling. So, and they have a little affirmation to welcoming the feeling and then allowing the feeling to pass. And so when you're floating, all you're doing is no longer resisting. Whatever you resist persists. And when you have anxieties, you want to resist it. When you resist it, it gets worse. When you try and run from it, it gets worse. So what you have to do is allow it. And so floating is allowing. When you stop and you breathe, just relax, deep belly breaths. Don't breathe in your chest. That creates more stress. You breathe deeply into your gut and you relax it. And that's it. You just basically breathe in and relaxing your muscles. Like most of us are holding ourselves like this all the time. And then you can just relax your shoulders, relax your jaw, and just let it come, let it come, let it do whatever it's going to do. It always passes. Anybody that has suffered with anxiety knows that no matter how bad it is, it always passes. And so your goal is not to make it go away because it's going to go away on its own. But when you float, what you're really doing is just relaxing. And you may not feel relaxed, but you are being relaxed. That's the most important thing because whatever you are being, you're going to get. Whatever you're experiencing is from your past ways of being, right? So if you are being anxious in the past, you are experiencing anxiety now, and it has momentum. And as you start to decide to be a different person, and that's what anxiety taught me, it taught me how to be a peaceful person. Because at first, when I started to do this, I didn't know what a peaceful person thought like. I really didn't. And that's what all that research did. It helped me to think like what peaceful, because, affirmations are just self-talk, or self-talk is just affirmations that you're saying inside your head. So I didn't have a whole bunch of peaceful self-talk. I had anxious self-talk. Like, I got to do this. What am I doing? How am I going to get this done? No worries, lots of worries, lots of trying to figure things out, lots of trying to figure things out for hours and days and just thinking the same thing over and over again. That's anxious thoughts. That's anxious ways of being. So when I learned how to be at peace, and when I learned how to find my answers in peace, and I started being peace, even when I was anxious, what I was doing was I was no longer fueling the anxiety cycle. So now I'm being peace and I'm anxious, and that's okay. And as I keep being peace, even though I'm anxious, eventually the anxiety starts lessening and lessening and lessening. Eventually it goes away. And then you'll be like, oh my God, I haven't felt anxious in so long. And then you feel anxious again because you haven't felt anxious. And then you just relax into that because that's okay too. And then eventually you don't have to deal with it anymore. And you will always have anxiety, but it won't be this big anxiety that's taking over your life. Everybody feels everything. I just saw something where they said the Dalai Lama says that he feels anxiety, he feels sadness, he feels anger. Everybody always feels emotions. There's nothing wrong with negative emotions. The problem is when you let negative emotions take you over. When you identify with them and when you start being anger, when you start being anxiety, that's a problem. if you are experiencing it, if you are experiencing anger, if you are experiencing anxiety, but you are being peace, that's okay because it's not taking you over. It's just a natural thing that happens in life. It's going to come up and then eventually it's going to fade away.
That's right. That's right. And I love that because what you're being is where it comes from. And
Yeah.
anxiety doesn't go away. You still have it. But it's the story you tell. So you catch yourself. Uh, this is a story. Start to float.
Mm.
And really, what helps me is I just go, okay, this story is just, I'm scaring myself. You get
Yeah.
of the scared, of the scared, of the scared, and then you spiral. And the
Yeah.
floating helps you stop. So I want to hear the other story. I want to hear you tell it about your tire blowing out on
Oh,
the.
oh yeah. That's one of my favorite stories because I didn't realize how much anxiety money was giving me. And so there was a it started like a few weeks before that because what I was meditating on the beach, and when I was meditating on the beach, this message came to me and it said, and that was such a great meditation. I never told you, but it was like I was just filled with joy. Like I was sitting on the beach. It was sunny, blue skies. The sun was right on me. I was sitting close to the water, so the water was lapping up on me, and I was sitting yoga style, and I was just like in bliss. And I wasn't always feeling that because I wasn't going to the beach regularly in the morning at that time yet. I just started, and I just was like, this feels so amazing. I was just filled with joy. And then this message came to me, and it said, "Man shall not eat by bread alone." And I grew up Christian, so that rang a bell, and I was like, I know that's from the Bible. Let me go look it up. And when I looked it up, basically what it was saying to me, what I interpreted it as, because I used to interpret dreams too. I don't know if I ever told you that, but so I started interpreting it like I interpret a dream. And so as I interpreted, what I felt like it was telling me is that in that situation, I was treating money as God. Man shall not live by bread alone, by every word that come from the Lord's mouth or something like that, right? And so it was telling me to start to listen to God, put God first, listen to your intuition, stop listening to money. And so all the money worries I had was me trying to figure things out by whatever I had in my bank account and whatever money I thought I could or couldn't make. And so it's just like, give this to God. And instead, just trust God. When you have money problems, go to God first. Don't try and figure out what you have in your account or how to make money. Go to God first. So I was like, okay, that sounds great. So I got tested really quickly. so, so I'm driving off to the office to meet a friend or something like that. And as I'm going, my tire gets flat, right? Like with tires flat, and I pull over to the side, and I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I gonna do? Because I have no money in my account, right? I have no money in my account. And so I start to have these things go through my head, like all the word, like, what am I going to do? I have no money. I can't tow the car. How am I gonna replace the tire? No, I was supposed to have an appointment. Like all these things start going on. I was like, no, nope, man shall not live on bread alone, right? So let's wait, let's see what happens, right? So instead, I sit in the car and I'm floating now, right? I'm floating and I'm just allowing this anxiety about money to come up and it's talking, it's trying to hook me, it's saying all types of like, what are you doing? How's this helping you? Like all these things. Yeah. And I'm just like, no, you can say whatever you want. I'm just allowing you to come up and go. And as it's coming up and it starts to get quieter and quieter. And then I get an idea. And the idea is to call Tesla and find out if they can tow my car, because it still was under 50,000 miles. If they can tow the car and how much it's going to cost. So then I called them and I'm like, hey, my car is down. I need a tire thing. And he's like, yeah, we can tow your car for free up to a certain amount of miles. So I was like, all right, well, that's great. That's one thing down, right? I don't need money for that. And then he's like, and for the tire, it's going to be something like $1,200. It was something like, I was like, $1,200. Like, I like, all right. The anxiety comes back up. And it was like, see, what are you going to do? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, I'll let you know what I want to do. And he's like, all right. And I hang up. And now the anxiety is like, how are you going to do this $1,200? You don't have any. And I just was like, no, Man shall not live on bread alone. I'm going to God, right? And so I sit again and I float and I relax. And then another idea comes to me, which is a Christian tire shop that I used in the past. And I know they have good rates and stuff like that. So I called them because, you always have to replace two tires. Even though one popped, you can't replace one. You always have to replace two. So I called them and I say, hey, what happened or how much this tire's going to be? And they say $400. I was like, okay, that's much better. But now my thoughts are still like, well, what you going to do? You don't even have a $2. So how are you going to do this? Right. And so I'm like, all right, I know I can tow for free from Tesla to the place, to the tire shop. And it's only 400 as opposed to $1,200. What am I going to do? And, there's things I can do. Like I can call somebody and ask them to borrow money or something like that. But I never do anything like that unless it's inspired. Because if I do that, that's because I'm in fear. And I think that this is the only way I can be provided for. Right. So again, the anxiety's coming up. I don't know what to do. And I just sit there and I float again. And I'm floating. And over this whole process, it's probably like an hour that all of this is happening, right? And I float again. And once I'm floating, then another answer comes to me. And the another thing I want to say is that I'm never trying to get an answer. All I'm doing is relaxing. Like, God, what do I need to do next? And then I let that go. I relax. I'm not like, God, what's the answer? Why don't you tell me? No, that's not relaxing. What do I need to do next, God? I'm listening. And I relax. And that's it. There's no more talking. The anxiety is coming up, the thoughts is coming up, and I don't give into them. I'm just breathing, relaxing, and relaxing my body. And then another idea comes up for an idea to do some kind of sale for my business, my online business that I've never done before. And the sale would have made me up a max of $800 if everybody bought it, right? And so I was like, okay. And I did on my phone. It was really quick. Did on my phone, something I've never tried before, on my phone. And within 5 minutes, I get a sale for like $450. It was something like, it was crazy. It was like a little bit more than I needed. And I was like, oh my God, just like that. And then I called the Tesla. I said, hey, can you tow it to this place? Not to you. Tow it to the tire place. And I called the tire place. I was like, hey, the car is coming. And like, great. I had not only enough money to pay for both of those tires, I had enough money to pay for Uber to pick me up later to go get the car. And that walk home, nobody could say anything to me. I was on top of the world. I was totally in the present moment. I saw the birds chirping. It was like a 1.5 mile walk home after the tow truck picked up the car. Birds were chirping. The sun was beautiful. And I just was enjoying every moment of everything because I was like, I can trust God. Like it was such like, after that message I got at the beach, it was so like, this is obviously what just happened, And I was like, I can actually trust God. I don't have to trust my anxious thoughts to help me to survive.
Whoa, I love that. I love that. And I go back to that story so many times. It's like, that's where the magic happened. And I love how he said, I don't demand an answer. I
Yeah.
start floating because it's going to feel like you want to demand an answer. Please, please get me out of this. But you
Yeah.
start floating and then you let the answer come. And notice how he didn't go with the first answer. It was more like guiding him towards the way. And
Yeah.
and here's another thing I want to add is that storytelling really helps us put ourselves in that situation because we can all relate to that in some way, shape, or form. And
Yeah.
we've all been there. And so what happens with me and with my coaching with Mark is I'll take his stories and I'll remember them and I will use them on myself if I start to find myself telling a story. And here's one that is super powerful. And I really want to hit home on this because Mark's been coaching on anxiety for a while, and he had a client who had really bad anxiety, and something happened to her brother, and she was able to handle that with zero anxiety. And I'm not going to tell you the details because I want Mark to tell you.
Yeah. I wanted to tell you because this came up. So I was like, maybe this is important to share. But I want to tell your viewers, like, if I had listened to anxiety with that tire story, this is what anxiety told me to do. Anxiety told me to drive the car with the flat home because I was only like a mile and a half from home and park it in the garage and ask somebody for money. So this would have been if I didn't sit and wait and float and relax and have that wonderful outcome, what would I probably would have did is destroy my rim, maybe even get into another accident and then stress out and ask people to borrow money and feel ashamed and all kinds of, and this is what anxiety does when you follow it. It just makes everything worse, right? So I just wanted to throw that in there because that just came up for me. I was like, you have to see the difference between what anxiety will tell you to do and what God will tell you to do. And that's why I could walk home feeling on top of the world because I, 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 I took the guidance of abundance and love instead of anxiety and fear. Yeah.
I love that. It
That's it.
just makes me feel better in the moment, and I hope it resonates with you. I trust it resonates with you as well as
Yeah.
the viewers. So tell us about your client. What happened with her and her brother?
Yeah, so I had this client, and I'll tell you from how she started because it's important to the story. Because I had another person that I helped with anxiety, and then this is like a family friend that was going through anxiety too, and she said, Mark helped me. He can help you too. So I started the first day I called. I remember she had just quit college, because her anxieties were so bad that she felt like she couldn't continue in college. And I was talking to her and telling her, that I had anxieties too, and I can help her, and I know that she doesn't feel like she's a normal person, and because when you're anxiety, a lot of times you look at other people and you're like, I just want to be normal like that again. And I knew she wanted that, and I would say that, and at the end of the conversation, she said, the way you speak, you feel so happy and you have all this peace. And can never believe that you can have more anxiety than even I have right now from your story. The only reason I even believe you is because you're saying things that only an anxious person would know, like saying like, I want to be normal again. And she's like, that's the only reason. But other than that, I would think you're full of it. And even talking about anxiety, she's like, you can talk about anxiety. And I was like, yeah. And so I was like, and you will be able to too, if you just do the work that I give you to do. And so she was like, okay. And so she was really good. She was really diligent, just like Kathie is. Like, she does the work, and no matter what I told her to do, she was always doing. She's very, very consistent. And so this is months has passed. And she calls me, and I'm not even speaking to her that much anymore because she's just so much better, right? And one day she calls me, she's like, Mark, I gotta tell you a story. She's like, I was at the club with my brother, and some friends, and they're in New York, and somebody was shooting in the club, and they shot my brother by mistake, and my brother is shot, and everybody's freaking out. There's like stampede people running out, and I'm there calming everybody else down. And she was like, I was calming everybody else down, Mark. And I was like, wow. I was like, do you see? And she's like, that's incredible. I can't believe that. I was the one calming everybody down, the one that's supposed to have the anxieties. I'm the one that's calming everybody down. And I told her, I said, that's because it's never about the situation. And this was a huge, huge like showing of that it had nothing to do with the circumstance. And it has to do with who you're being, right? It's not about what's happening to you. It's who you're being during the circumstance. And because she has been training to be peace and allow things to come through her and pass, and to think like through a lens of peace and centeredness, since she's been taught that for months and weeks and things like that, when she had the opportunity to do this, it was already embedded in her. It was already habitualized. She didn't even have to think about it. She knew she got in the present moment. She probably was breathing and relaxing. She probably was saying affirmations like, I can handle this. It'll be okay. And then those affirmations probably was externalized to the people around her, because now she is being peace. Right. And so when you are being peace, you reduce anxiety within yourself and in your circumstances, because you are the person that's taking everything and filtering it through calmness. You're just like, calm everything down, right? Because this is who you are. But when you're anxiety, it doesn't matter how small the thing is, you will blow everything up because you're taking everything and you're filtering it through anxiety, and you're turning molehills into mountains now, you know? And so, and even in the end of, there's even something that I think is really beautiful with her story too. Not only that, because she was so proud of that, but I called her like a couple of years after, we stopped coaching, just to check up on her. And she had casually said to me, she's like, "Oh yeah, I just graduated from college, last month or something like that." And she's like, "Oh, and I have a baby on the way." And like I started like tearing up. Like I started like getting emotional. And she wasn't emotional at all. But she doesn't remember the first conversation we ever had was her saying she left college because of anxiety and she couldn't do it anymore. And I didn't even know she went back to college. I didn't know this part. And so now that she was and now like it feel like God was telling me like this is what can happen when you help people. Like you changed the whole trajectory of her life because of what you went through, because you were able to heal yourself and then you shared it with somebody else. So that's that story that last time I spoke to her really helped me to continue with my coaching because it felt like more of a responsibility now and just instead of just something I was doing for money.
I
Yeah.
absolutely love that, and that is the truth, hands down, that works. And so, my journey with Mark, he's in my mastermind, in the Flow Base Prosperity Mastermind, and I would hear him talking about his journey with anxiety, and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's me. I know he knows what he's talking about. My anxiety was off the charts." Even though everything in my life is like really, really great and things are fine and everything, it just seems like it. But what happened was the neural pathways were just like so ingrained in my head that I had to rewrite my stories. I had to start floating. I had to start healing from anxiety because it's like, and I did a video on this not too long ago. It's like my body became addicted to anxiety and just in a state of anxiety all the time. I didn't realize it. And now that I'm healing from it, I'm like, oh wow, this feels so much better. And I can remain in peace despite the things that are going on around me. And I'm also starting to see that my peace is starting to affect everybody else in my world, even if I don't even say anything. I don't
Right.
even have to say anything. It's just a mere presence that
Yeah.
goes on. And it is the presence of God. And it is the presence that it's the most powerful presence. And it's the peace that passeth all understanding.
And then
It's definitely that
awesome.
because anxiety is it is the teacher. It's not mine. It's the teacher and it's guiding you to the truth, which
Mhm.
is where the peace that passes all understanding comes from. And I'm feeling that and I've it
That's amazing. Did
yeah.
I tell you that story, the piece that passed all understanding?
No, and I can't wait to hear it.
Oh my God. I guess you just triggered the story. I thought I told you about that. So when I was having anxiety, I had this thought that kept coming to me, the peace that passeth all understanding, the peace that passeth all understanding. And that kept coming to me, right? And I was like, what is that? Like, how do I get that? And I started reading in the Bible, the peace that passeth all understanding. And I started like really like to wonder, what is the peace that passeth all understanding? And then one day I was scrolling the internet and I saw an ad for TM, which is Transcendental Meditation. That's the meditation that Oprah does, Howard Stern does, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like all these celebrities and CEOs. And it said that there's a scholarship, right? Because I had no money. And so it's like there's a scholarship that you could fill out. So every there's TM centers in different cities all over the world. And so there was one in my county too. And so I filled out this thing for a scholarship. I went to go see them, go to it, and they approved me to pay for the whole thing, which was very rare. Usually they pay out for a little bit, but they paid for the whole thing. I was like, thank you. So I was so grateful. And then we went through the training for how to do this meditation. And over the couple days, we're doing this meditation. And then one day I'm sitting there and I'm doing this meditation. And I feel this is the first time I felt the separateness. So I'm sitting in meditation doing TM. And then I can feel the anxiety starting to come up, and the panic starting to come up. And I stay in meditation doing the TM technique. And then I can feel it. And then it finally passes. And I was like, and like the whole thing didn't pass, but like that, like I tell you, the edge comes off, right? And I didn't feel as anxious anymore. And I felt like I got operate again. And then I opened my eyes and I'm like, oh my God, the peace beyond understanding. That's what it is. It is literally the secret is in the words. It's the peace beyond understanding. And before that moment, I used to try to understand my way to peace. So I'm anxious about money. I'm like, well, a check is coming and, and maybe I can sell something like that and, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. Or, somebody's sick and I'll just be like, well, we'll go to the doctor and we'll get these drugs. And I was always trying to understand my way into feeling better. And when I sat there in meditation and I felt the anxiety come up and I didn't get involved in it, and I just allowed it to be there and then it eventually dissipated, I realized in that moment, the peace beyond understanding is not trying to understand your way into peace. It's just allowing peace to reign, basically. When you allow and you relax, then anxiety will pass, anger will pass, depression, feeling down will pass, and you will be left with the peace that you already are. And so I totally forgot about that, but that was my first time ever realizing that I am not my feelings and I am not my thoughts. And that was led to me from that peace beyond understanding. Yeah.
Man, I love that. And that is what will happen if you just allow the emotion to come through and let it just rise. And it's been proven that it takes 90 seconds for emotion to go all the way through your body. So that 90 seconds of floating, I mean, real floating,
Yeah.
because when he says take the edge off, I know from experience, it doesn't just go away. It's
Yeah.
still there,
Yeah.
but I see it subsiding. And when he talks about that journey, it's an upward journey. You're going to come back down and hit anxiety again, but
Yeah.
it's the teacher. It's the teacher that's guiding you where to go to the peace
Yeah.
that passes all understanding. And I think, I want to respect your time. And I think this is a good place to stop because we could definitely go on for a long, long time. But I definitely want you to come back on the channel and we'll talk about the journey that's going to go through with this and we'll see what happens. And I look forward to talking to you again on the channel. So where can people find you and I definitely will have the links in the show notes and description below, but go ahead and tell us where people can find you and where they can work with you.
You can find me on Manifest with Mark on YouTube. I don't really have a lot of Kathie's actually might help me with this because I don't really have websites and all this stuff set up. I have a Calendly. Am I saying
Yeah.
that right? Yeah, I have a link that you can book with me a meeting, a discovery meeting, and she'll put the link below. But I honestly, people come to me through word of mouth and through just guidance. Like people are guided to me, and that's how I get most of my clients. And I don't. I tried to, do like the way a coach is supposed to do a couple times, and I just didn't like it. And so I just was like, you know what, God, if you want people to work with me, then people will work with me. And that's exactly what happens. People just come to me. Matter of fact, today, when I was sitting in the Zen garden the new one I found that I told you about, I got a message that somebody that I used to work with is going to come back and work with me again. So I'll let you know if that happens because usually when I get a message like that somebody's going to call me or something, it usually happens. So I was like, oh, we'll see. But one thing I do want to say before we close is I just want to let anybody that's watching this that you may be experiencing anxiety. I want you to understand what it is. Anxiety is not trying to destroy you. It's your friend, honestly, actually. And even the girl that her brother got shot in the nightclub, which he's okay, by the way. I didn't say that, but he's okay. Even her, I remember telling her that one day you're going to call anxiety the teacher because it's actually trying to help you. And she was like, Mark, that's never going to happen. And now every time I speak to her, she's like, the teacher, because what happens is that your way of being is stressful for your body and your soul. And your body, when you start experiencing anxiety, your body is telling you when you have a pain somewhere in your body, it's not just being a pain just to be a pain. It's being a pain to tell you something. Your body is communicating with you. And we've lost the art of listening to our body in our society. But our body's always talking to us. So this anxiety is telling you, alert, there's something wrong. The way you're doing something is something wrong. And the way that like messages work is that first is a whisper. And if you don't listen, eventually a bus hits you. So when you're having this terrible anxiety, it's from not listening to your body for a long time. And so now you're sensitized. Your body's very sensitive. And I believe, this is what I believe from healing myself 2 times and from talking to people, um, is when your body's really sensitive, it's because it's trying to get your attention. And when anxiety gets so big, it takes over your entire world. It's because it's like something needs to change. And when you start listening to it, when you stop running from anxiety, when you stop fighting anxiety, and you start listening to it and be like, what is it that you're trying to teach me? God, what is it that I need to know? You will start to know the things. Maybe you should stop drinking alcohol, right? Maybe you should take down less caffeine. Maybe there's certain people around you that you don't need to be around anymore. Obviously, you're not talking to yourself nicely. You're not being loving and kind to yourself in the way you speak. Maybe you're not eating in a way that's really good for your body. Maybe you're not moving and exercising, all these things. And then what you start doing when you start taking care of yourself is you start healing yourself. And what anxiety is just helping you to do is to listen and to love yourself. And when you listen to yourself and you love yourself over and over and over again, and you start to be the person that is listening to yourself and loving yourself, then anxiety has no longer a reason to be there. And it reduces and reduces and reduces and reduces because you're a different person. You've learned your lesson. So I just want to tell everybody that because there's a lot of information and anxiety that makes it feel like something you have to fight when it's the actual opposite. It's something you should listen to and embrace.
Whoa, whoa. Bomb exploding. And I have to tell you that working with Mark has taught me all of that. So I enjoy alcohol. I like to drink, but right now I'm healing from anxiety and I know that it makes it worse. Another thing that happened was I was caffeine. I did a pre-workout in the morning before I got it, because I don't drink coffee, but I drank a pre-workout. I drank an energy drink. I went in my supplement store the other day and they were like, Kathie, you want your energy drink? And I said, oh yeah, I forgot. I don't drink those anymore because of I'm healing from anxiety.
Yeah.
And honestly, to tell you the truth, what happened was my body just started feeling better. And it started, I started taking care of myself. Like he said, it's all about self-love and it starts there. And when I started doing that, those habits just fell away. I didn't even realize. I got up one morning and I was like, I went to the gym and I didn't even have a pre-workout. What? That hasn't happened in years. In years, I'm not kidding you, probably at least 5 or 6 years. And I'm like, I don't need the caffeine. I did not have headache withdrawals because I was taking care of myself, because I was doing meditation,
Exactly.
and because I was like just
In your rest.
self-love. Yeah, and getting my rest and my sleep is so much better.
Yeah.
And, I still have, bouts with anxiety, but I know what it's doing now. It's what it is this the ego just clawing for the deeper life. And I see it, and I love how the book Dare teaches you this, how, yeah, okay, whatever. Come on, bring it on. Let me see what you got. And then also there's a part in that book, and let's talk about this real quick before we go. But there's a part in the book where anxiety you give it this little voice and let it talk and let it tell you what's going on, because I still have anxiety, especially when I first wake up. Like my brain is going, oh, God, we gotta do this, we gotta do this, we gotta do this. But now I'm in the habit of taking care of myself first thing in the morning, and I'm letting go of a lot of like old limiting beliefs, like I've got to get paid by the hour and I've got to go to work and I've got to show up to work because I've been in corporate for so many years. But now I'm an entrepreneur, and an entrepreneur is so much more kind to
Yeah.
you than a
Yes.
freaking boss in corporate that's telling you gotta clock in, you gotta clock out, and we don't care about your mental health, whatever, just come
Yeah.
on. But my brain was those neural pathways were so engraved that when I wake up in the morning,
Mhm.
it'll
Yes.
hit me. But I'm like, okay, teacher. And so real quick, if we can do it real quick,
Yeah.
how does Dare tell you that the voice goes and you have the conversation with anxiety?
Well, the Dare is the book that it came to me like maybe like I don't know, maybe like 10 years after I had anxiety that first time. I had it again. And it wasn't as bad as the last time, but it was pretty bad and it was really confusing. I was like, why am I experiencing this? I thought I took care of this, you know? And and then I learned that, you know, I really the last time the way I got through it is I read that Claire Weekes book. And I read only one chapter. And one chapter in that book, it was basically telling you how anxiety is a cycle. So something triggered you, you had anxiety, and then you start being afraid of the anxiety, and that creates more anxiety. So there's this spiral. So as soon as I read that, I was like, oh, I know what I need to do. And I just ignored it. That's all I did. I ignored it at every moment I could. I listened to music. I would sing along with the music. I started doing things I enjoyed, like I started fishing. I started playing basketball, you know, just doing as many things I enjoyed. And then what really took me to like 100% is I got a job that I really loved. It was my dream job at that time. And that job, I loved it so much that I was always present in the job. And I just forgot that I even had anxieties, you know, and then that's what really got me out that cycle and I didn't experience it again. So the second time it happened, what happened is that I did not learn all the lessons I needed to learn, you know? And so when I found this Dare book and I joined their community, the book is great and they have a community that's really great. I joined the community and I started listening to the stories and the testimonials and reading what they're saying. I started to learn that there was way more to it. And what she's talking about is the talk. So when anxiety starts talking to you, you know, because every emotion has some kind of story, it has some kind of talk, they tell you to stop and they tell you to change the story and say something different. And where they got from is cognitive behavioral therapy. And so, and I started reading a book on that too. And all cognitive behavioral therapy is basically writing down all your negative thoughts because all these thoughts that's coming to you, all these anxious thoughts, it's the same thought over and over and over again. It's probably like, you know, 1 to 20 of the same type of thought going over and over again in a loop. And so you write that down and then you write something that's the opposite of that. That relaxes that anxiety in that area, you know? And when you learn to have something else, because when you float and relax, you need to replace it, you know? You don't want to just float and relax and then go ahead thinking the same way you thought before, because that's going to create more of the same, right? And so you need to float and relax, and then you need to be the new person. And Dr. Joe talks about this too, right? To get up from your meditation as the new person. And so you have to be that person that thinks in a way that's opposite to the way you were thinking before that got you in this place in the first place. And so that's what they talk about in that book. And that was really, that is a really powerful thing because people, especially if your the anxiety experience is not very dramatic, you can heal just like that because like the source of those thoughts, as soon as you change them, there's no more anxiety to be created, you know? And even if you have a lot of anxiety, all that means is that your body's very sensitized. And like Kathie was saying, you're in a habitual pattern. Like you got addicted to anxiety, you know? It's like habitually coming up, even when there's no reason to come up. So now you just have to learn to relax every time that comes up and think the new thoughts and practice a new feeling. So when you think those new thoughts, when you practice peace, when you practice joy, as you relax and practice peace, relax and practice joy, relax, practice peace, relax, practice joy, you are creating a new habitual pattern within your body. And now what's going to happen is you're going to have spontaneous feelings of deep peace. You're going to have spontaneous moments of joy for no reason because this is what you're practicing now. And that book has and you know, in that book, in the end of that book, when you read that Dare book, in the end of it, he says basically that all of this basically boils down to you loving yourself. That's what he says. And I'm just like, wow, like every single thing. Like there's this Louise Hayes, which I love, and I give Louise Hayes to everybody. And she says, I used to fix this about the person and this, when somebody's worried about their weight, somebody's worried about relationships, somebody's worried about money. And she's like, once I start teaching people to love themselves, all of those things just start to fall away. And I didn't have to work on this and on that and that. And the longer I go on this journey, the spiritual journey, the more people I help, the more times I help myself, I realize that this is true. It all is just loving yourself. When you start loving yourself, as much as you can every single day and growing in that love, everything starts falling away and everything just improves. Because if you love yourself, you want to have, you gonna only allow the best people in your life. If you love yourself, you're gonna make sure that you have a good wage and you earn a good living. If you love yourself, you're gonna make sure you're healthy and you take care of your body. You're gonna do everything you need to do and more.
Whoa, that's a good place to leave this because that is the truth, bottom line. Because you are God, you are the universe, and that is where your power comes from. And when you realize that, it's like, wow, everything falls into place. Just like he knew what to do with the tire, just like the girl knew what to do with her brother getting shot, just like he knew what to do with the bug. And on top of that, he taught his children very valuable lessons that they can apply later in life. And that's true. As a coach myself and a wellness consultant and a wellness coach, that's all. If you can teach somebody to love themselves, then all your work is done. It's just done. And you could just watch this video, watch it again, watch it again, watch it again, and you will start to feel that self-love that we're talking about, because that has changed everything. When I started working with Mark, I want to say just 2 months ago, and people are already noticing a difference in me that don't even know that I did that. I went through this coaching, but it's just a matter of finding that self-love that I had lost because I beat myself up so many times. And that's all anxiety is doing is beating you up. But when you ask it to teach you the lesson, it guides you to that self-love. So that's where we're going to leave this today. And I promise you we'll have Mark back on because we're still on this journey, and it's never a destination. I want you to remember that too. It's never a destination. It's just a journey, and then fall in love with it, because I can tell you when you do, it's where the magic happens.
That's right.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So thank you for watching. I trust that you found it helpful. And in fact, I hope you watch it again or listen to it again and just soak it in, because that is some powerful information you just heard. All the links will be in the show note and description below. I will also have a short blog post on my blog that includes all of the bonus extras, including the bonus resources, the books that we talked about, as well as how to find Mark, and also to start working with him, and maybe some coaching programs that I have going on at the same time. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. I trust that you found today's episode helpful. And until next time, I will see you next time. Peace out and namaste. Yeah.